Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sarah of Connect Our Elders, and today I'm here with Andrea Rojas, the Activities Coordinator for St. Paul's Senior Services, and she is operating out of a specific location since St. Paul's does so much work throughout San Diego County. So Andrea, thank you for joining me today, and I'm very much looking forward to learning about the breadth of services that St. Paul's offers, and specifically about your involvement with them and what you do for our county's elders. So if you don't mind, go ahead and let's start with you sharing with us about your particular role and where you work out of for St. Paul's.
Hi, thank you for having me. I work for St. Paul's Plaza. We're located in Otay Ranch, and I'm one of the activity coordinators here in our community. I specialize in memory care, so that's where my program is. So I'm in the dementia unit, and I work with the memory impaired people down there. And I develop programs for them that are engaging, therapeutic, and that promote social well-being and just socializing and creating fun moments and basically parties, events, just to get them out of that mind frame and have a fun and hospital environment.
That's
so
awesome.
The fun job, basically.
I love that. When I worked in hospice for a little bit, and the way that I would collaborate with my skilled nursing facilities that I would call on is that I would volunteer to work with the activities director, and I would go in and I would do activities with the patients there, and it was just such a wonderful experience. So I'm curious, what made you decide to get into this line of work? What is your why behind what you do?
I started going to school and I chose to study social work. And then part of my education was to do some volunteer work. And then I was volunteering with the city of San Diego. Eventually, I started volunteering with the county, and it was working with seniors. So I got into the senior community that way. And ever since, I just fell in love with the population, and they're really fun to work with. And for me, it's all about how I would like to be treated when I'm an elder. You know, we all have loved ones. We're all going to get there one day. And I just feel like for me, my role is to create fun moments for them and just have fun with them the whole time, you know? And a lot of times I know with like seniors, especially with memory care, a lot of them have a lot of agitation and confusion, and then they don't see their loved ones. So for me, my role is more like kind of a distraction, so that way I can get them engaged in something else other than the worries and the anxiety, and just kind of break them free from that mentality. And that way we're in the moment, you know, and just creating those fun, happy moments or moments of joy, and, you know, just being present with them.
That is so beautiful. And the work that you're doing is so very important. And I think that a lot of times people are making the assumption that as people get into their elder years that they don't know how to have fun anymore. And that's not the case.
No, not at all.
No. And so what type of activities do you do with?
So for me, it's really about like a person centered approach. So it really depends on who I'm working with. Of course, I have some residents who are a little bit more limited than others. Mm-hmm. And I really go based on what their abilities can do. And also I integrate groups. So just because a resident is lower functioning doesn't mean that I'm not going to include them in an activity. I try to promote activities that both of them, like the higher functioning residents, can do, and also encourage them to work together as a community, as a friend, and have someone as support. So we do activities, anything from like sing-alongs. It can be making puzzles. We play bingo. We have a lot of music events. I try to do like a little bit of brain training. So we'll do like word searches or connecting dots, just things to really stimulate them. And like I said, some residents may need more of a tactile activity or something that's more hands-on, where there's like messing around with blocks, sorting cards. Some people really like folding baby clothes. Some others like to do trivia, word searches. So I try to really see what they like, and then that's how I mold my program. So as our residents change, you know, if I see they're more limited, I try not to remind them of their limitations. So I simplify it a little bit more so that way they don't feel bad about, oh, I can't do that, you know?
So it sounds like, you have a group of people, but you're making the activities unique to the individuals, right? You're assessing where they are. And because I have found over the years that depending on what stage in the decline of memory, right? When they're aware of it, it causes this increased insecurity. And so,
Oh, yeah.
if you can design these activities that are going to be engaging and good for their psychosocial well-being, but yet preserve their sense of self-esteem, that's wonderful. So we have an awesome comment for you. I can't see who the person is that made it, but they said that you have the most meaningful, noble profession and that our elders need increased engagement. And I could not agree more with that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you to whoever made that comment.
And I try really to protect my residents' dignity. You know, a lot of the times I feel like a lot of them feel like they're not heard. So I'm not there to argue. I'm there to listen and be their friend and their companion and just be someone they can come to and trust and really step into their world. And I remind them that, you know, they're having a difficult time. I'm trying to do the opposite of that. And I'm trying to just be in the moment with them. That's the main thing. And just having a lot of patience working with these residents. And memory care, that's, I think, one of the biggest things you need. A lot of patience, a lot of compassion. And it really, like, the simple things really make a difference for people. Just even sitting down and talking to them, hearing them out, a simple touch, just being there with them, that is everything.
Everybody, I've said this, I could be wrong, but it makes sense to me in my mind. But I feel like everybody wants to be seen and heard, and that doesn't go away with age, right? But I just feel like as a society, we've gotten away. It's almost like we've forgotten about the elders in our community, for whatever reason, busy with our own lives, our jobs, our kids, things like that. And so, we have to remember that they still want to be seen and heard. So I'm glad that there's people like you doing this on a mass scale for people. Now, you had mentioned that one of the things that your residents like to do, or some of them, folding baby clothes. And that reminds me of something that I learned a long time ago. And when I would be calling on the social workers at the skilled nursing facilities, and they would be talking to me about certain patients that had, dementias, right? And so what I would do is I would take a baby doll and they would use it for some of their patients because it really calmed them.
Yes.
So do you have anything to add around that? It was just the most amazing thing.
Yeah, so like I do the baby doll therapy here too because a lot of our later stage residents, they believe that they're real babies. So they take care of them, and that's why I've heard of people doing like the sorting clothes, but I decided to reach out to different groups on Facebook and get donations of baby clothes, and then I provide it. We have 4 houses here in my unit, and each unit has differently impaired residents. So there's a particular unit that we have here, and they have all the ladies that just go to town on folding the clothes, and that's something they really enjoy. And then they have the babies, and sometimes it's funny because they'll have the little dolls next to when they're folding the clothes, but I think it just brings nostalgia to when they were mothers or grandmothers and they were actively taking care and being care providers. And it's interesting because a lot of the residents that do it, they're the ones that are in the later stages, but they still have that nurturing part in them. And folding the clothes is like something that they don't forget. Like automatically they'll pick it up and then they'll look at it. And that's part of the reason why I did it, because I felt like it was more like a visual for them and it would bring them a lot of memories. And so far it seems to be a really good thing. And I wanted to make sure that I integrated that into the program.
That's wonderful. And for those of you in the audience listening right now, I mean, if you have your aging parents or your grandparents, right, or your neighbor, whoever, remember these activities, right? Because this is something that you could execute on your own for your own loved ones, right? If you have a mom who's really struggling, get a baby doll, like step into their world. So let's talk about that for a second. When I'm working with families, I'll often say this, if the loved one has dementia, Alzheimer's, right? and I can understand how it's so frustrating for the adult children, right?
Yeah.
But it's really important to remember that you need to step into their new reality, right? Because they can no longer step into yours.
Yeah.
So what do you, what's your take on that?
I've worked with a lot of families, and I've noticed, especially when they're in the beginning stages of the disease, they're used to seeing their loved one normal before the diagnosis. So, we had people who've been in the military, nurses, teachers, people who were just like you and me. And you don't think this is going to happen to you. So we have like some really strong-willed people. And then for the families to really see their family members start declining, that has to be like the hardest thing. And I'm just getting chills just thinking about it, because it is extremely hard to see your loved one fading out in front of you and accepting it, because I've seen a lot of families who can't accept it. And it takes them a really, really long time. And I've seen how they interact with their loved one, and they still want to have the regular conversations, but a lot of times they can't. So my suggestion would always be try to seek out support groups. Alzheimer's San Diego has a lot of support groups. Even in other parts of San Diego, there's a lot of people who are going through the same thing or that have gone through it. So you need to reach out to your community, and just so you're understood, you can understand the disease and kind of be a little bit more prepared as to what's to come, because every single person is so different. You can't, even though they have the same diagnosis, everybody's affected differently and everybody progresses differently. So the main thing I would say for families is just be patient. I know it's hard, but just being there for your loved one, that's what's going to count in the end of the day. Just being there, loving them in their hardest moments. And like I always tell everybody, the resident or the person is not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time because a lot of the times they're aware, that they're changing, and that they don't know how to vocalize it, and they don't know how to act because they don't know what's going on, or sometimes they do, and it's just really hard when everything's starting.
That was profound. Can you say that again? You tell families they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time.
Yeah.
That's very, very profound. I'm going to start saying that all of the time now. That's super profound.
I heard it, and then I was like, wow, this is exactly what it is, and I've been working in this field, I want to say close to 9 years now. And I started really getting into memory care around that time. And just, I've seen this disease over the time, and I've gone through so many people and getting to know them and building their relationships and seeing the hardships for the families and for the person I'm taking care of. And it's just not easy. It's not an easy disease to deal with.
No, absolutely not. It's heartbreaking. We have a bunch of comments today, so this is an important topic, but people are really engaging with this. Tammy Moses is one of my my connections, and she has a company called The Hoarding Solution. She's an avid supporter of Connect Our Elders, so thank you, Tammy, for engaging all of the time. Another comment that we got, I can't see who it is, but it says lots of information and advocacy resources. Lots of families don't know where there's support for coping and education. Well, if you are in San Diego County, please remember St. Paul's Senior Services. Now, if you happen to be watching, or if you watch this at a later time and you're not in San Diego, reach out to me and I'll help figure out what the resources are in your respective area, okay? So Andrea, you said that you've been doing this for 9 years. I'm very interested to understand how you go about coming up with your activities.
Honestly, it's just about going with the flow, because sometimes I can create this activity and I prepare the materials and I'm like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then it falls through and I'm like, okay, we're going to go back to the basics. Let's do what works. But a lot of times I am in a lot of activity director groups, and I try to see ideas. I'm always doing research. I try to collaborate with people who are in the same field, or thankfully I have a coworker where I used to work at, and she works here, and she was my manager at my previous place, so she was the activity director there. So I have her as a guide, and I work with a really good team here because there's 2 activity directors here at the plaza. I'm in memory care. She's in the assisted living, independent living, and we also have a fitness coordinator who is great in memory care. So there's 3 of us here, and we have basically a abundance of activities team. So anytime that I'm having a hard time, I'm like, okay, what do you guys think about this? And then we brainstorm. And then there's also websites like Activity Connection, Golden Cares, and they give you ideas on how to set up for an activity, because a lot of people, when they see activities, they're kind of happening, but they don't see what it takes to coordinate and put them together, you know. So like if you're going to do an art class, you got to make sure you put the covers and you have the canvases and the paint and the brushes. And what is this person able to do? Does this person need paint? Does this person get confused with the brush? Do they do better with markers, with coloring pencils? So you have to kind of know who you're working with. And then a lot of times they need a lot of encouragement to actually finish like the artwork, for example. And that's just one of the activities. So it's just everything needs a lot of coordination for it to happen.
Yes, I'm sure there's a ton of work behind it. But I was just thinking as you were sharing this with me in the audience that, you know, certainly there's a bunch of different activities that family caregivers can do, or even agency caregivers can do with the clients in their homes, right? Versus, you know, of course you got to focus on the activities of daily living, make sure that they're safe and fed and, you know, all of that stuff. But keeping our elders engaged is so important for their psychosocial well-being. So for those of you in the audience watching, you know, the website that Andrea suggested, don't be afraid to go to that website and figure out some activities that you can do with your family member to keep them engaged. What was that website again? Activity Connect?
It's one is activityconnection.com. I know it's a subscription service. So is goldencares.com. It's
Okay.
also a subscription, but it's basically you get the whole year, and it has like an abundance of activities on there, and it gives you like step-by-step instructions how to set it up. It has like printouts and all the materials you need or what you need. It gives you a list, and it has trivia. It has such a large abundance of ideas. But even for activities, I like to think that even the simple ones, but they're meaningful. You know, a hand massage, going for a walk, because I know like a lot of people who live with their loved ones and they're learning how to cope with everything and how to engage. Just simple things like that, going for the walks, going for a hand massage, doing a puzzle with them, helping them with the word search, reading them the newspaper, bringing out a picture book, and, you know, buying things that are large print or things that are comforting, foods, music. There's like so many options that you can do. Yeah,
that's wonderful. So talking about, you know, we're talking about some activities, right, that family caregivers can do or agency caregivers can do with family and clients. So what are some tips on engaging and talking to someone with a memory impairment?
I think it's all about your approach. A lot of times, especially if you're like an outsider, you're not really a family member. Even if you are, sometimes if they don't recognize you, I make sure you always be smiling, come in really gentle, because you don't want to startle them. If you startle them, it's game over. So you have to be really gentle. You have to be very soft. Come up to them, introduce yourself if you have to, and kind of build a rapport like, hey, what's your name? Where do you live? Or where are you from? Do you have children? And of course, it all goes based on the limitation. If you have someone that's nonverbal, it's really difficult to engage in conversation. But even like a simple touch, just letting them know that you're there for them and supporting them. So it's really about how you engage with them. The first interaction you have with them is going to be your go-getter. And I've had certain people who I approach, and I'm like, this approach is not going to have to work. So I modify my approach for each person, because if I can't go with the same approach to everyone, it has to be different. Like if I know someone loves food, I'll be like, hey, good morning, how are you? And then, you know, we'll get into a little conversation. I say, hey, do you want to go get some coffee? And they'll be like, yeah. But if I tell them, do you want to go exercise? They'll say no. So I try to do yes or no questions, nothing too difficult, just simple. And that way they can answer me and basically just try to get them in. And if my approach doesn't work the first time, I change it until I find something that works. you know.
That's great advice. Great advice. We have another comment. Leanne Vieira Leonard, somebody that I actually grew up with back in Maine. So she said, several years ago, I worked at a nursing home in Massachusetts before moving to Maine as an assistant activity director. I loved it and loved the joy it brought to the residents. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Leanne. And let's talk about the joy, right? Tell me your thoughts on this. I feel like the best way to feel joyful oftentimes is to make other people joyful, right?
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's just very rewarding to make people smile, to help them out with the concern they have, and actually feel needed. And in memory care, I feel like it's, to me, is a very rewarding job because I don't feel like the residents are judging me or they're not holding me like accountable for this exact thing. And they're just there with me in the moment. That's the main thing. I can go up to them, and if they're having a bad day, I'll just walk with them, and that brings them joy. You know, oh, if I know that someone likes a certain food, I'll say, okay, we're going to have a cooking class or we're going to have a baking class, and I'll integrate, and then we'll talk about, you know, like let's say I do root beer floats. Root beer floats seem to be one of those simple things that brings a lot of memories. So a lot of them will say, "Oh my God, my husband used to make me these when I was married," or "I used to eat this all the time when I was in school," or "I haven't had this in a long time." So that those little things bring a lot of joy to me. Just being able to provide those simple little things for them, and just like I said, just trying to get creative what they like. And each person likes something different. You know, it can be someone who was a teacher, you know, they like checking paperwork and they like to check in projects. At some point, we had someone who was an accountant, so just giving them like invoices and putting them away, like little things like that that bring them joy. And then overall, just it becomes a really harmonious place to be in because everybody's engaging in something that they truly enjoy, and then
Yeah.
everybody's happy.
I am so moved being a part of this discussion with you because I can feel your passion. I'm sitting here and we're having this conversation about it. And I just the thought that you are having such a significant impact in so many people's lives, you know, towards the end. And I'm sure a lot of them, you are the only person that they have, right? Or the support of St. Paul's is what they have. So I'm super, super moved by the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Uh, so we talked about tips for engaging and communicating to somebody with memory impairment. What are some tips for caregivers that are dealing with the new diagnosis? You know?
I would say, and I think first things first, you need to take care of yourself because I've noticed a lot of caregivers burn themselves out really bad. And in order for you to be able to take care of your loved one, you need to have some self care and don't feel guilty for it. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just, you know, saying, okay, I need to leave my loved one in a safe place with someone caring for them, and I need a break. That's not something bad to do, and I think that's so important for caregivers to know that they should not feel guilty for taking care of themselves. And it's going to be a win-win situation because you're going to feel better, you're going to get a breather, you're going to be able to take care of your loved one, and it's also good for your own well-being. And that's the main thing to me. And like I said, reach out to any support groups. There's a lot of support groups for Alzheimer's here in San Diego. And just reach out so you can feel like you're not alone because you're not. A lot of people are going through this or have gone through it, and they can guide you. They can give you examples of what they did to engage their loved one or how to diffuse situations. And just so you know that you have support and you're not feeling
Okay.
alone during these hard times.
It's the whole philosophy of, you know, when you're on an airplane and they give you the whole safety spiel, right? You put on your mask before you help somebody else. And so it's the whole concept of that, you know, you have to take care of yourself, right? Because what happens is a lot of family caregivers end up getting sick themselves, or, you know, they pass away before the actual person they were caring for because they neglect their own well-being. So, you know, it's really important that you take care of yourself. Otherwise, what good are you going to be? to the person that you're trying to help. So that's super important. I'm glad that you brought that up. Let's talk about St. Paul Senior Services, overall. What are the services that St. Paul's provides?
So we have a few communities throughout San Diego. I think there's about 10 different locations. 3 of them are like live-in. So we have St. Paul's Plaza, which is the one I'm in. We have St. Paul's Villa, St. Paul's Manor, and each one has a different living situation. I know for us, the Plaza and the Villa were both independent living, assisted living, and memory care.
Okay.
As far as the Manor, they're independent. We also have McCall's, which is a skilled nursing facility. And those are our main communities. And then we have like the senior daycare center, and there's also a child care center. And then we have all of the PACE locations that are opening up that help with all the medical services. And they keep expanding, which I think is great because those services are needed throughout San Diego. And I think we just opened one in North County, and you can just see the need is really great. And I hope that we can continue expanding and that people can take advantage of these services, because one of the reasons I joined St. Paul's is because of PACE. I used to work with PACE in my other location I used to work at. And I fell in love with what they were doing. I saw the staff. And one of the things that really stood out to me from St. Paul's is that whenever you come into any of the communities, the staff looks genuinely happy. And it's a welcome. And I've gone to almost all of the communities, and I feel like it's the same feel for all of them. And that made me want to join a company. And I've been here, I think next month, I'm going to be here 2 years already. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I am just now learning the breadth of services that St. Paul's provides. And I have some other people that will be coming on the podcast from St. Paul's. I'm just so very impressed with the work that they're doing throughout the county, and the PACE program is phenomenal. You have an awesome comment, Andrea. So Mary Johnson says, Andrea is so genuine and really strives to tailor activities, engagement to each of our memory care residents. St. Paul's is so fortunate to have her.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm so emotional that I'm starting to tear up.
I love Mary. I get to work with her a lot, and she's always been very supportive. And I love everybody that I work with, and I feel like this is probably the best job I have ever had. And genuinely, I think we have such a good team. Sorry, I'm sorry. Mary made me stutter. We have such a great team overall in all of the departments, and I'm just really thankful to be here.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So Andrea, if people want to learn more about St. Paul's, is St. Paul's a nonprofit, or do you guys take donations? Do you have volunteers? So what I want to talk about is, if people have an elder, right, that they think could benefit from your guys' programs, how do they reach out to you? But also, I don't want to ignore the fact that maybe you guys could benefit from donors in the community or volunteers that really want to get involved and support our elderly population throughout San Diego. So how do they get in touch with St. Paul's for either of those?
Everything will be done through our website, and that is stpaulsseniors.org. And you can see all of our communities are listed on there. If you want to donate, if you want to volunteer, if you want to learn a little bit more about our programs, everything is there, and it's very easy to navigate. And I know that it was just remade again, so it's very easy to use. And literally, you just go on stpaulsseniors.org, and you will find all the resources on there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being a guest today. I really enjoyed this. And for those of you watching, I will be reposting this video, and also I'll be sure to put in the post the website to St. Paul's. As a reminder, my name is Sarah, and I'm the founder of Connect Our Elders. My entire intent is to empower the aging process by providing education around resources, navigation to help people figure out what the right resources are for them, and then ongoing advocacy from initial point of contact throughout the entire aging continuum. So thank you for joining us today, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.